All right, welcome back, guys. This is another Tim Cain video. Why people quit. By the way, just to quickly show my own shit right now, we just announced our game. It'll be live on September 4th on Steam. You can find our trailer and a link to the game. Well, no, you can't because YouTube took my advanced rights away. But you can look up the game, Coin Pusher Reloaded. It will be available for free with 12 languages supported at launch. So, we'll have fun with that. Either way, Tim Cain, why people quit. And there's a lot of reasons, man. I have my own reasons for why I quit different places, and I think that they might align with some of the things that Tim says.
Hi everyone, it's me, Tim.
Hi Tim.
Today I want to talk about why people quit.
Happy Wednesday, Tim.
I recently did a video called Eating Your Own Dog Food about if you make a product, in particular a game, you should use it, you should play it, you should eat your own dog food. In the comment section, a lot of people were asking about people who don't eat their own dog food, and more particularly, why those people would even be in the industry or stay in the game industry if they didn't play games.
That's a good one. And you would think that it's more rare than it actually is, but there are quite a lot of people in the game industry who don't play games. And you'll see them at all stages of the hierarchy too. I've seen them, obviously you see them in like management positions all the time, right? But I've also seen them in developer positions. They don't care. They don't give a shit. I mean, it's not just about games either, but I see them. I've worked with people who have specifically said, I never want to talk to a gamer, a player of my games. And obviously, I don't align with this way of thinking in any way. I'm completely the opposite. So, I don't know. To me personally, I find this way of thinking absolutely absurd, but it is way more common than you think.
And I thought I'd address that in this video, like drill down on it, because I've been in the industry in just a couple months. It will be 44 years. So in a couple months, I enter my 45th year of working in the game industry.
Congrats, Tim.
And in that entire time, I've only been an employee at 5 companies. I've done some consulting and contract work, but I've only been an employee at 5 companies in 44 years.
That's not many, to be honest, especially nowadays with studios closing or getting laid off. People are getting shunted around companies way more frequently than which is probably what Tim is about to say.
What's interesting is I've only quit twice. There were 2 companies, Cybron, the one that made Grand Slam Bridge, and my own company, Troika, that closed. So I technically didn't quit. There was no company to be at anymore.
Yeah, shit happens.
And then Obsidian, I've been working for Obsidian now for 14 years. A mix of employee and contracting. By the way, that's twice as long as any other company I've ever worked at, including my own. Which right there should tell you something about Obsidian. 14 years.
They're very stable. I mean, Obsidian makes great games. They really do. And I know people have had some problems with like games like Avowed. But still, the quality of Avowed was not bad, and the game ran well. It looked amazing. It was produced well. Obsidian is just very, very stable. It knows how to make games, and it churns them out at pretty consistent quality from game to game.
And counting. I mentioned I've quit twice in my career, and if you want to know more about that, I've got videos about it. I quit once from exhaustion from Interplay. I'll link the video below. It's when I quit Fallout 2. And then once from frustration from Carbine when I was working.
I feel that too. I've quit technically 3 times, officially 2 times. One of those was not something I wanted to do, but I had to do. So, or no, it's actually been 4 times. Technically, I've quit 4 times. I've never been fired. Unless you count the time where they locked me in the office and were physically abusive. That's a story for a different time, I'll tell you that. But definitely one of the times I quit was both out of exhaustion and frustration. And that's pretty much when I started to push into my own stuff heavily here with Microraptor. So uh, I can only say that my latest official work for another studio, which was Far From Home, was amazing. I loved them. I still love them. They're doing great work. Ain't no problems with them.
Working on WildStar, and I'll link that video below. So I'm not going to rehash that, but I just want to point out that in 5 companies, quit twice, 2 of them went under, 1 I'm still at. However, this question about why people quit has been asked of me for a long time. In fact, I'm going to tell you a story now that happened in the 90s.
Ooh.
And
who was alive during the 90s? I was born in the 90s. Who's too much of a zoomer? And you guys probably weren't born during Y2K. I remember Y2K, but I only have like 1 or 2 images in my mind of Y2K. 96 for you, 90. Nice. I was 94. I remember 9/11. I remember just it was like the day was normal, and then all the adults were weird, and then I went home and my mom was crying on the phone with my aunt, and I didn't understand like the exactly what had happened, but it was fucked up.
And it was at Interplay. This would be about 1995. I had been there since 91. 91 as a contractor and then full-time employee starting at 92. I was just starting up Fallout. Fallout had started in 94. Interplay had been really stable in the sense of nobody had ever really quit. Not a large number. Some people had been fired, but nobody had ever really quit.
That's good.
Except a few rare instances, and it was very obvious why. Like maybe their spouse was moving, or they were leaving the game industry altogether. But
honestly, having low turnover on a game company is unheard of these days.
Suddenly, in 1995, more and more people were quitting, and they weren't leaving the game industry. And I think it was freaking out upper management, because I was asked to come in by one of the upper management to get my opinion on why this was happening. And at the time I was wondering why they asked me, but later on I found out I was a manager, but I was still kind of in the trenches. I spent most of my day programming, and
that's important too. I've also been somebody who has been in the trenches. I like being the liaison between the team and the management. I prefer the day-to-day. And because of that, I have been used before in companies as the person to come to when they want to know what the average worker is thinking, right? And that's a very difficult role to be in, because you can't like reveal names. You don't want to out people and put them in the spotlight, especially if they have problems. I can only relay what other people are saying and tell them that, hey, I can't tell you who's thinking this. I can only tell you that a lot of people are thinking it. Blame me, get mad at me if you want to, but I'm not gonna put my friends under the firing range here.
And designing. Plus, I did a lot of stuff after hours. I played board games with people and video games. We went to parties. We went to dinner all the time. So basically, the person who asked me said they thought I really had my finger on the pulse of Interplay, which I never thought of. But I didn't know why he wanted me in his office. But he basically said, "Why do you think people are quitting all of a sudden?" And I thought about it for a second, and I said, I think a better question, something that would be more informative, is to ask why people don't quit. And he said, "Oh,
that's it's pretty funny, but it's true. It's like it's kind of you're looking at it from a different angle when you think like that. And I know a lot of people that want to quit places and do not quit places. And nowadays, it's usually because there's so much instability in the industry, and it's so difficult to find a job that they're just happy that they have one. They may not be happy. They may not be working on games that they care about. They may not be well treated or well paid, but they are paid. And they have that job. And it's better than nothing. And I can't blame them one moment. It's a powerful world. You can end a company or raise it. I got blamed for all the problems in the company because I was the one voicing those problems. That was the issue that I ran into. That when company morale was Google form asked and said that it wasn't as high as it could be, I was the one blamed for it because I was raising concerns about the way that we were producing games. That's what happened because I was the one that spoke out. So I can't really blame people for not wanting to speak out when they just get called into meetings and being blamed for lowering the morale of the company when my only goal is to make better games. If we can't learn from our mistakes, then we don't know how to fix them because we deny that they exist. That's when you quit.
Don't quit. And he said, okay, why don't people quit? And I said, that's simpler. I said, it's the 3 I's: ignorance, inertia, and apathy. And
that's an A.
Maybe, like you're doing right now, yelling at the screen, he kind of yelled at me, apathy doesn't start with I.
Yeah.
And I just went, I don't care. And after a bit of a laugh, and also being reminded that insufferable also begins with I, he said, could you explain that in detail, please? And I said, okay, let's dive into it. And this is what I said. And you got to remember, this was back in the 90s.
That was pretty funny.
So the first thing I said is, a big reason people stay here that I can tell is ignorance.
Okay.
They literally don't know they're being underpaid. They don't know.
Yeah, that's true. Like, because when you're working so hard at a company, what are you not doing? Applying to other companies, right? And there's a lot of fake posts in the industry about how much you'll be paid. Here's the pay range, and then they'll say, well, actually, it's about this much. It's just, you don't know that you're being underpaid, or in some cases, you don't know that the grass can be greener on the other side. And of course, there's also the fallacy of the grass is always greener on the other side. Sometimes it's not. Sometimes you might get better pay, but you're worked more, or you have more responsibilities, or they don't give you as much leeway with time off or something. Some people prefer the benefits. Some people prefer the straight pay. Some people don't care about working overtime. Some people do. Depends.
They're being underutilized. They don't know about other jobs. It's hard to find a game company, much less open positions at game companies, much less open positions at other game companies that you qualify for.
True.
So ignorance was a big chunk.
I mean, just think of it this way. I'm a game designer. I can apply to regular and senior positions and even lead positions in some cases. But there's also companies that are working on games that I don't have a specialty in. There might be a good senior design position open for a sports game. I don't play sports games. I can't apply to that because I would just suck as a designer because I don't know what the market wants. I've never played the competition. I'm not ingrained in that. For me, the games that I play the most common are also the companies that I should be looking for jobs for because those will be the most relevant to my experience and my tastes. And, if I'm playtesting a game that I'm working on, I would like to enjoy the game so that I can understand if my distaste for a feature or a system is because the system or feature is designed poorly or balanced poorly, and not, well, I don't like the game genre, so I'm not going to like the systems in it.
Of employee retention in the 80s and 90s. If you got a job at a game company, you counted your lucky stars and where were you going to go? But that was changing. Game companies were becoming hot. There were more and more springing up, especially in California, especially in Southern California.
True.
So suddenly there were options, and people weren't quite so ignorant about those options anymore. The second reason I said was inertia. That's different than ignorance. Inertia folks knew Maybe there were other things they could be doing, but they were just very happy with the status quo.
Stability. I mean, stability is just a big one. Why add this stress of having to find a new job when you already probably still have enough stress, even with the stable job? It's like you get, maybe you're saving up for a house, maybe you're saving up to have a kid. Why take the instability? Just go to work, come do your tasks, come home, shut the fuck up. And it sounds crazy, but a lot of people will tell you that. Don't raise a stink. If you want to continue working here, shut up. Stop asking questions, stop prodding them. They don't know what they're talking about, but you're getting paid. You have a job. Just be happy. Now, I can't do that personally, but a lot of people can, and because of that, they have stable jobs.
These were people who were, for lack of a better word, working for the weekend. And I had somebody actually tell me that. He had a job with very little responsibilities, and it paid okay. It didn't pay that well. But he pointed out to me, he said he lived in a place he shared with 3 other people. What he liked doing on the weekend was 4-wheeling in the desert.
Nice.
You know, Joshua Tree. He liked going up to Anza-Borrego or out the Salton Sea. And so he liked not having a lot of responsibilities, and he was being paid enough that as a young 20-something, he could do what he wanted every weekend.
And who's to say that's wrong? He was happy. Fuck it. Let him have it.
And he was happy with that. That was a status quo. He didn't leave to get another job because he didn't even look for another job. He was happy with the way things were. So that was the inertia. So that finally brings us to the apathy, which I think is a different thing than inertia. The apathy is, quite frankly, the I don't care people. They weren't looking for anything else because this was just a job to them. They showed up, did their work, got paid, went home. I talk about that in my jobs, callings, and career video. I'll link that below.
We watched that. Very good one. It's basically just breaking down the difference between people who do the game development work, as he said, as a job, as a career, or as a calling. So people that are just there to clock in, do the work, people who are there to rise up in the industry, and that people who are there for passion. Tim, obviously, as you can imagine, this is his calling, this is his passion, this is what he loves. I'm of the same mind, and that can sometimes clash very heavily with the culture at a company where you have a lot of people who are there for their job or for their career. And this can all create tension, toxicity, and push companies in different directions, which is why when you are hiring people to work in game dev, if you want to have high employee retention, you should try to hire people that fit within those categories depending on your company's goals. For us at Microraptor, of course, it is passion. I don't care if you're not as good as you could be or as good as some other candidate. If you're passionate, if you can show that you learn well, that you're introspective, that you care, and you're a good teammate, way higher value to me than somebody who's really good at what they do but don't give a fuck about games.
That's what they did. That's all they did. That's what they were happy about. I shouldn't say happy. They didn't care. Work didn't annoy them.
Yeah.
Or if it did, it didn't annoy them enough to make any kind of changes. They were just like, I don't care. I don't care about this game. I don't care about this work, but I'm making money. And it's subtly different than the inertia folks. The inertia folks were happy with where they were. The apathy folks weren't, but they also didn't care enough to go anywhere else.
In my opinion, though, some people who are really passionate can become apathetic as a coping mechanism. They want something better. They would love to have a job where they can display their passion on full force. And most people who get into the game industry do so because they are passionate about games and they love it. And then they start working in games. And if anybody who's working games knows, that will get crushed out of you, or you will be pushed out of those companies. So I know a lot of passionate people right now, people who I would say are my friends, who are extremely apathetic just because of how shitty the industry is. And if they had some time to relax, to warm themselves back up to the industry, to game dev, and then found a place that didn't weaponize their passion, but instead encouraged them to pursue it, and build upon it, I think that they would become very good employees. I don't care about this game, but can you blame them? I can understand that. Yeah, it's no, I don't. It just sometimes it sucks. Sometimes, like I said, it's people who are passionate become apathetic because that's the only way that they can cope.
And I said, apathy, I think, has kept a lot of people here. I know a lot of apathetic folks. And keep in mind, this is the 90s. I hear people saying this all the time in the 2020s, like this is brand new. It isn't. We talked about this at length, in depth. And it ended with him going, I don't agree with anything you said. I'm like, okay. But Interplay kept losing people. And I think that those three eyes played a big part because each group, the ignorant group, was getting smaller.
Can we just. They didn't agree with anything he said? Like, I don't think it takes somebody working in the trenches to be able to say that Tim is right here. Like, how dumb do you have to be to listen to what Tim is saying right now, assuming that he said similar things or even went into greater detail in that meeting and say that that's wrong? They're losing people. They asked him for his advice and then said that his advice was wrong. Well, you had nobody better to give you advice. Why didn't you just ask people? I don't know, Matt. I don't know. That's dumb. What Tim is saying is right, though. I agree.
The ignorant group was getting smaller. The inertia group was getting smaller, especially as people got older. And the apathy group was pretty much the only group that was remaining.
Mm-hmm.
But you can't run a game company on apathy. I still think that these three reasons that people don't quit, I think that still applies today. The proportions may have changed on what percentage of people who just stick with their job is ignorance versus inertia versus apathy. But I think that's the three primary reasons people don't quit their jobs.
I would agree. I think ignorance has probably gone down a little bit, though. You see that more with juniors who haven't had more experience, or who don't have enough connections to hear about other experiences. I think a lot of it is. I would even add one. Can I add one, Tim? And just like you, I will obviously use an I to start with, and I will say, fear. Fear has an I in it, right? I think people are just afraid. Like they know that there are thousands of people applying for jobs that they could qualify for, but they have to compete with those 1,000 people. Why take your chance? And maybe this kind of leans into apathy a little bit. Why even bother? I have a job here. I'm being paid. I'm not going to risk it, right? And I don't blame anybody for that. It's tough. I mean, I quit. Do you see me making money on my games? No. No. It's a tough industry.
So I'm curious what you guys think. I wanted to tell those stories and see what you think. Why do you think people quit? Or more importantly, why do you think people don't quit?
Those were my thoughts. Tim, great video, as usual. Give it a thumbs up, guys. Here's the link in chat. And of course, go give Tim a subscription if you aren't subscribed to him already. That was wonderful. I think that's it for the video. I don't have anything else to add. All I can say is I agree. I've met all types of people in the industry when I've been working, and this is my passion. I do it because I love it. You could give me $1 million, 10 million, 100 million tomorrow, and guess what? I'll still be making games. I'm not gonna go off onto some yacht. I get depressed when I can't make games, so I will continue to make games so that I'm happy. Either way, thanks for watching that one, YouTube. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace, YouTube.